It was an ordinary evening in Chattanooga, Tennessee in the year 2000, a city where neighbors knew each other's names and children played freely in the streets. But for 10-year-old Joshua Walden, that night would turn into a nightmare no one could have imagined. Joshua disappeared without a trace, and what followed would shock the entire community. How could a child vanish in a quiet neighborhood? Who could commit such a horrific act, and why? These questions have lingered unanswered for over 2 decades, leaving a haunting void that still echoes through Chattanooga. Tonight we dive deep into the chilling story of Joshua Walden, an innocent life stolen too soon, and the mystery that refuses to be solved. Chattanooga at the turn of the millennium was a city of quiet streets, tree-lined neighborhoods, and close-knit communities. Life moved at a gentle pace where everyone seemed to know everyone else, and parents felt safe letting their children roam freely. It was the kind of place where a missing child would shake the very foundation of the community. Joshua Walden was just 10 years old, a bright, energetic boy with a curiosity that seemed boundless. He loved exploring the small parks near his home, playing video games with his friends and riding his bike through the familiar streets of his neighborhood. Friends described him as cheerful, kind, and full of life, with a smile that could light up a room. His family remembered him as a loving son, attentive and playful, with dreams and a world of possibilities ahead of him. That ordinary life, so full of promise, was about to be shattered. On what seemed like a regular evening, Joshua stepped out into his neighborhood, and the course of his young life would be abruptly and tragically changed. The warmth and security of Chattanooga were about to be replaced by fear, confusion, and a mystery that would haunt the city for years to come. The day Joshua Walden disappeared began like any other. He woke up in his family's home, ate breakfast, and prepared for a day that, on the surface, seemed completely ordinary. According to friends and family, he spent part of the day playing with his neighborhood companions, laughing and enjoying the carefree moments of childhood. He rode his bike along familiar streets, waved to neighbors, and even stopped briefly to chat with friends who would later recall his cheerful energy. As afternoon turned into evening, Joshua's movements became harder to trace. Witnesses would later recall seeing him in the vicinity of his home, riding his bike and heading toward a nearby area he often explored. But somewhere along that route, the trail went cold. No one saw exactly what happened next, and there were no immediate signs of foul play, only the chilling reality that a young boy had vanished into thin air. Neighbors would later describe an unsettling silence that settled over the area, a sense that something was profoundly wrong. Calls were made to friends and family, searches began, and the community's initial disbelief slowly turned into growing fear. The ordinary, safe streets of Chattanooga had become the backdrop for an unthinkable tragedy, and the clock was ticking on a mystery that would leave investigators baffled for years. It wasn't long before the worst fears of Joshua's family and the community were realized. On that fateful day, Joshua's body was discovered in a secluded area not far from his neighborhood. The exact location was a quiet stretch, hidden from the main roads, a place that seemed almost forgotten, a place where someone could commit an unspeakable act and leave it concealed. The news sent shockwaves through Chattanooga. Police rushed to the scene, securing the area and beginning what would become a painstaking investigation. Officers combed the surroundings for clues, questioning neighbors and anyone who might have seen Joshua that day. The community, initially holding on to hope, was now faced with a horrifying truth. A young life had been brutally cut short. Even in the initial reports, chilling details emerged that confounded investigators. There were no clear signs pointing to an immediate suspect, and nothing seemed to indicate why Joshua had been targeted. Friends and family struggled to make sense of the tragedy, grappling with questions that had no answers. How could something so horrific happen in a neighborhood where children were supposed to be safe? The discovery of Joshua's body marked the beginning of a long, agonizing search for justice, a search that continues to this day. From the moment Joshua Walden's body was found, the police launched a full-scale investigation. Detectives scoured the area for evidence, retracing his final steps and interviewing anyone who might have had even the smallest detail to offer. They followed leads that seemed promising at first, speaking to neighbors, friends, and acquaintances, trying to reconstruct the moments leading up to his disappearance. Despite these efforts, the case quickly ran into frustrating dead ends. Witness accounts were often vague or contradictory, and no physical evidence immediately pointed to a suspect. Investigators faced the daunting challenge of piecing together a puzzle with missing pieces. In 2000, forensic technology, while advanced for its time, lacked some of the tools investigators rely on today, making it harder to analyze evidence that might have held crucial clues. Suspects emerged and were questioned, but each lead seemed to dissolve into uncertainty. The police remained vigilant, combing through every possible angle, yet the mystery only deepened. Each unanswered question weighed heavily on Joshua's family and the community, leaving a lingering sense of unease. The investigation was thorough, but in many ways, it felt like chasing shadows. A young boy's life had been stolen, and the truth remained just out of reach. As the investigation into Joshua Walden's murder dragged on, theories and speculations began to emerge, some from law enforcement, others from the public and media. Some believed it could have been the act of a stranger, someone lurking in the neighborhood with malicious intent. Others speculated it might have involved someone closer to Joshua, someone who knew his routines and daily habits. Experts in criminal behavior and child abduction have weighed in over the years, noting that cases like Joshua's are often the result of opportunistic predators. But even with that insight, the case defied simple explanation. No solid motive could be established, and no suspect fit the profile conclusively. Every lead seemed to raise more questions than answers. The unanswered questions continue to haunt the story. Why Joshua? How could a child vanish in a seemingly safe neighborhood? Was there a clue missed in those early critical hours? As we reflect on this chilling case, it leaves viewers with a haunting thought. Sometimes the most unsettling mysteries are the ones where the truth remains just beyond reach. What do you think could have happened to Joshua Walden that day? Even decades later, the story of Joshua Walden continues to resonate in Chattanooga and beyond. Law enforcement has periodically renewed efforts to solve the case, revisiting evidence with modern forensic techniques and exploring leads that were once thought exhausted. Yet, despite these efforts, the case remains officially unsolved, leaving a lingering shadow over the community. For Joshua's family, the pain has never lessened. They have tirelessly advocated for justice, speaking to media outlets, participating in public appeals, and refusing to let his memory fade. The community, too, has rallied around the call for answers, keeping the story alive in local awareness and reminding everyone that a child's life was stolen in their midst. Media attention over the years has helped keep the case in public consciousness, highlighting the challenges of solving such tragedies and emphasizing the human cost of unsolved crimes. Joshua's story is more than a mystery. It is a reminder of the fragility of innocence, the persistence of hope, and the enduring quest for justice that refuses to be silenced. Decades have passed, yet the questions surrounding Joshua Walden's murder remain painfully unanswered. The streets where he once played are still filled with memories of a life cut tragically short, and the silence of unsolved mysteries hangs heavy over Chattanooga. What truly happened that day? Who was responsible for taking a young boy from a world that had so much left to offer? These are questions that may never be fully answered, leaving a haunting emptiness in the hearts of his family and the community. Joshua's story is a stark reminder that some mysteries do not fade with time. They linger, demanding that we remember, reflect, and continue searching for the truth. If you have thoughts, theories, or insights about this case, share them in the comments below, because even the smallest clue or idea could help bring justice to a story that has waited far too long for answers.